welcome to Hasta La Vista, the podcast where the shade is cool, the leaves are lush, and friendship's perennial. We are your hosts. I'm Betsy Peterson.
And I'm Mandy Olson.
Two hobbyist sisters who love this plant as much as you do.
Join us each week as we dig into all things hosta, the plant affectionately known as the friendship plant.
Welcome back, listeners. We're kicking off an episode with a true legend in the world of hostas, a man who has driven countless thousands of miles touring botanical gardens throughout the U.S. and Canada, and has dedicated a large portion of his life to growing the hosta community.
Our guest is a leader, an editor, a garden club guest speaker, and a passionate plantsman whose influence stretches from Wichita to national conventions. He's currently the editor for the AHS Hosta Journal, oversees the newsletter exchange group. He's a self-proclaimed hostaholic, and he's on a personal quest to visit every single AHS display garden in the country.
It is a masterclass in hosta passion. Get ready for an inspiring conversation with the president of the Wichita Hosta Society, the one and only Danny Lawson. Welcome, Danny.
Good morning. How are you ladies doing this morning?
Very good, very good.
Great.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Can you give us a little hosta history about yourself?
Sure. I've always been a gardener of some sort. When I was about 3 years old, I used to get up from my afternoon nap, according to my mom, and go across the street and water the neighbors' flowers. And then in my young teenage years, I noticed a package of marigold seeds stapled to a bag of Fritos corn chips. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember those or not, but I planted them and they grew. How about that? A few years later, in my teens, I tried my hand at tomatoes, and we had an absolute bumper crop. And my dad would take those extras in 5-gallon plastic buckets to local restaurants, and they would buy them. Dad liked making money. So the next year, he tilled up half our backyard for even more tomatoes. And he asked me that year what I wanted for my birthday, and I asked for a shovel and a hoe. The Mom and Dad were shocked, and Dad told me any tool I ever wanted to work with that he would gladly buy for me. But years went by, and I became more interested in fast cars and just working my job, the routine, and did a lot of volunteer church work. I got away from gardening. But as my parents aged, they got old and sick. And so about 20 years ago, as the only one of 4 kids who never married or had kids, I was the logical choice to move back home and help take care of them. But I needed an escape from the house every now and then, so I started landscaping their yard. And my sister Linda is a master gardener, and she purchased a very simple green hosta for me, and I planted it. And you know what? The next year it came back, and it was even bigger. I commented to her about that, and she said, there's actually lots of colors and varieties of hostas, and that there was even a club for people who like them. And I just laughed and laughed. I thought, oh, how sad for those people. Now I'm a hostaholic and a convention junkie, just like Roberta Chopko is, and I absolutely love it.
Those poor people. That's us.
They have
That's
a club.
us. How funny. Oh, great.
You're a leader in our community, not only as president of the Wichita Hosta Society, but also as their newsletter editor. What do you find most rewarding about keeping your local hosta community connected and engaged?
Well, it can be tough through the years, but we meet every month of the year, which I guess is a little bit unusual for a lot of the local hosta societies. We meet the 4th Tuesday of each month. And sometimes it's difficult to find fresh and new content that's interesting without the expense of bringing in an outside speaker, which we've done, but that is pricey. What we do through the summer, from May through September, is we meet in somebody's yard and have a garden party, a picnic. And with the exception of July, because it's just simply too hot in Kansas to be outside in somebody's backyard. So we go inside and do an ice cream social and a hosta auction. I purchased hostas at the convention the month before, helping to support the vendors there at the convention. And in turn, our club members get access to some of the newest, latest, greatest hostas on the market. So that's a win-win. But We try to stay engaged with our local club and with lots of activities.
That is really cool, Danny. So you
Right.
buy them at the convention and just kind of save them for your July social, which is what, about a month later?
Yeah, a month later.
Month later. Okay. And so all these members get access to these really cool, unique plants that you hauled back from, well, this year from Illinois.
Right.
Huh?
The two hot ones that everybody was after this year was I brought back a Razorback and a cup of grape. No, excuse me, catcher's mitt. And
Oh.
well, everybody wanted that catcher's mitt, and I bought one for myself, and then we had one for the auction, and that netted some good money for us.
Well,
Not
very
about
cool.
making money. We try to recoup our cost, but it's just fun and it's an activity for the evening.
Oh, I love it. That's a very ingenious idea. Very cool.
It is.
Well, Mandy and I just figured out that the AHS convention is coming to Wichita in 2029. That is very exciting. I'm guessing you had a lot to do with that?
I had some to do with it. Yes, it was proposed. We've talked about it for years and years and years, and it was originally proposed by a previous president, Carl Miller, and he got shot down big time.
Oh no.
But Rob Mortko, who everybody knows is the Hosta guy
Mhm.
out of Kansas City, Olathe, he comes every April and does our meetings, and he's done that for years and years and years. And a year ago, this past April, he mentioned it again and said, Wichita really should host the convention. He said, you'll have a lot of people come here because very few people have been to Wichita.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on it every month last year and told them in January, we're going to vote yes or no to host the convention. And I mentioned that every month, every opportunity. And January came and we voted, and we didn't get a 100% yes vote to host the convention, but the overwhelming majority did vote yes. So we'll be seeing everybody hopefully in 2029 in Wichita, Kansas for the National and Midwest Regional Hosta Society Convention.
Awesome.
That's
So
great.
it's another combined Midwest and like double feature like it was this year.
Correct. Yep.
Very cool.
Yep.
So are
Both.
you heading up that effort to organize and plan?
Yeah, we'll actually form the committee at our January meeting. We don't have a logo or a theme yet, but
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, we think we have plenty of time because it's 2029, but that's four growing seasons to get ready for the fifth one. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be here before we know it, but
Mhm.
it's going to be fun. I want people to come and see what Wichita is all about. We're
Well,
not sure.
as a native Wichitonian, I'm very excited about that.
Great. That's fantastic. So
That's great.
people, the initial reaction from our people here was, oh, they will be disappointed when they come to Wichita because our hosses are not as big as they are in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. But I was on a water garden koi pond tour in Oklahoma City a few years ago, and one of the ladies down there, she had some hostas, and I commented on that. She goes, "Oh, we were in Wichita last year. I wish we could grow hostas as big as you
Ah,
do up there." So it's a matter of perspective.
that's
It is.
exactly right. It sure
Wow.
is. Oh, well,
Wow.
that's very cool. Well, we hear that you're on a personal quest to visit every display garden in the country. That is a serious passion. So, how many have you checked off your list so far? And what inspired you to take on this ambitious project?
Well, you're right. That is my passion. And so far, I have visited 24 of the 28 display gardens in North America, most of them twice, and some of them several times. And it started out actually by accident while on my way to the first AHS convention I attended in St. Louis in 2016. I went up north and went through Nebraska and Iowa and Illinois and hit several display gardens through there. And the purpose for that was actually to find or locate hostas I had never seen or heard of before. And so I was only looking for unique hostas. I didn't really think much about the gardens. And then one night at the banquet there in St. Louis, Dr. Bob Olson came and sat down beside me and introduced himself to me. And I told him what I had done on the way to the convention. And he said, that would make a great article for the journal. Would you be interested in writing one? And I said, sure. And didn't think much else about it. Well, he called me a couple of months later and asking where my article was at. They needed it for the journal. They're holding space open for it, and they needed it pretty quickly.
No.
So, panic. I wrote the article, and since then, I've written several more for the journal. And as you learned from Andy Marlowe, that was my first experience at being bobbed by Dr.
That's exactly right. Oh, very cool.
Of the display gardens you visited, which ones stand out as your absolute favorites and why?
Well, okay. Like kids or grandkids or hostas, you can't have a single favorite,
Mhm.
but I do have several which stand out. As far as an educational display, I think the Missouri Botanical Garden in St. Louis, Missouri, and the Green Bay Botanical Garden in Green Bay, Wisconsin might be two of the best as far as an educational, hostas planted, mature clumps, a good space in between them, labeled very well. But for sheer just walk through enjoyment beauty of a hosta garden, uh, I'm a big fan of the Springfield Greene County Botanical Garden in Springfield, Missouri, and the Simpson Garden Park in Bowling Green, Ohio.
Hmm.
Those two popped to my mind when I think of which gardens did I just enjoy walking through and seeing all the hostas. They were absolutely gorgeous.
Hmm.
Oh.
They're all special, they're all unique, they all have their own personalities. Not a single dud in the whole bunch. But it is sad to see at some of the display gardens where people have gone in at night with a shovel
Hmm.
and stolen a clump or two of hostas. And that's
Oh.
sad. I really believe that if somebody wanted a hosta that bad, that somebody in the local society would gladly give them a clump for the garden and probably even help
Mhm.
them plant it. There's no need
Yeah.
to steal. So,
Yeah.
Oh. That's
but
too
my
bad.
current plans are for next year going to Dublin, Ohio, which hopefully the two of you will attend. Uh, I'm going to fly into Atlanta, Georgia, and then drive up to Clemson, South Carolina, Knoxville, Tennessee. Mary Albrock is offered
Hmm.
a tour there. Make a quick dash over to Norfolk, Virginia, and then turn back and come back into Dublin. So that'll be three of the ones I've not visited yet. And I'll just leave Moscow, Idaho as the last garden on my list to visit.
Wow.
I
It's quite a
didn't know
trip.
there was one in Idaho. That seems very far west for hostas.
Well, Idaho, Washington State,
Yeah.
Oregon, there are
Yeah.
some. They even had a convention in Oregon, or was it Washington State? It might have been Washington State, probably 20 some odd years ago.
Huh.
But I would love for us to have a convention out there again. I think that would
Yeah.
Yeah.
be great.
Yeah.
I guess I was just thinking it was on the, oh, what would that be? The east side of the Cascades where it's a little drier and more arid. And I bet my geography's just off a little bit, but that's very neat that there is one out there.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed that you're going to have all but one
Yeah.
finished by
Yeah.
this time next year. That's very cool.
Yeah,
Very
actually,
cool.
it's a goal, it's a quest, and I'll figure out some way to make it to Moscow, Idaho. Most likely, we'll fly into Seattle and just drive over and
Hmm.
turn around right back and fly back home.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just start and be done with it.
Hmm.
Very cool.
That's neat. Was there one that had a specific hosta or design element that completely blew you away?
Oh, probably the one that has blown me away the most would be Simpson Garden Park in Bowling Green, Ohio. That was
Okay.
just absolutely amazing, and uh, it was just fantastic what they've done there. There was an
Yeah.
article in the last journal, and then Phil Hollenbaugh, who was instrumental in doing that garden, his daughter wrote an article about him on how that garden came to be. So that was just a very impressive one
Hmm.
to visit. I encourage anybody when you're traveling, look at a map and see how far away you are from one and stop and visit them. The ones I have revisited through the years, they change. You know, they evolve, they mature, and they're just gorgeous. It's
Mhm.
the highlight of a trip when I take a road trip someplace.
Mm.
Hmm. Okay.
Now, we talked with Josh Speece, and he mentioned the display garden at Dubuque, Iowa. Is that
Yeah,
one that There is a display garden there that is AHS sanctioned.
Yes, I've been there a couple of times now. I was there just last month.
Okay. He said that was the first time he had seen a summoned substance. And this would have been probably the late 80s, early 90s. And like it sparked something in his brain. And he
Okay.
just was like, I have to have that hosta.
That's a great garden too. They have a lot of unique specimens there. They're seedlings from Roy Klein, Mark Zillis, and other people that you don't see those at any place. Every garden seems to have one that no one else has. So that's always fun.
Mandy, I'm seeing a road trip in our future.
I think it'd be fun. Yeah. All right. Well, tell us about the pending approval Wichita AHS display garden at Botanica.
Sure. In the last few weeks, they've actually officially applied. We've sent it on to the people who do the approval. We've been working on that for several years. We got derailed during COVID, and they've been through a couple of directors there recently. But the new one, Dr. Lynette Zimmerman, she was very interested in getting this completed and off the to-do list. And hopefully, when we host in 2029, we will have an event there, probably a luncheon or a dinner on the first day, and have people be able to tour the garden there.
That's great. Huh. Well, who and what got you interested in joining your local Hosta Society and eventually becoming the president?
Well, again, going back to my sister, when she said there was a club, uh, Wichita used to have, according to Better Homes and Garden Magazine, one of the top 10 garden shows in the country. And it has since changed since then, and unfortunately, is not as good as it used to be. But the Wichita Hosta Society had a booth set up there one year, so I stopped and joined, and also joined the local pond society for water gardens. And but I didn't go for the first year. I was just too busy with my job. And the second year came around, and I got my membership renewal notice, so I renewed, and I went to a meeting probably in February, and went and sat in the back corner of the room, a little wallflower. And the president at that time was Norma Kemp. Bless her heart, what a sweet lady she is. She came up and introduced herself to me, and she said, "Are you new?" And I said, "Yeah, it's my first meeting." And then she just very matter of factly said, "Well, you can't be a member and not do anything." So she handed me a whole roll of tickets and said, "Here, give these tickets out to everybody that comes through the door for the door prize drawing." So, and since that time, I have been to every meeting except two of them, and coming up on close to 20 years now.
Wow.
I like her philosophy.
Yep.
You can't sit here if you're a member. You got to do something.
You got to do something. You can't do nothing.
You can't do nothing. Get moving. You're
We are
taking
not
up
here to
space.
entertain you.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
wow.
great.
Goodness.
That's awesome.
So you're also serving on the AHS board?
Yes, the first convention I went to in 2016 in St. Louis, they have a newcomers meeting for everybody's first convention. So of course I went to it, and Barry Ankeny and then President Don Dean, they were hosting that. And Barry asked me, he said, "What do you do for a living?" So I said, "I work in the commercial printing industry." And I do, his eyes lit up and he had some more details. And I said, "Oh, I do our local Hosta Society newsletter and my church newsletter and the weekly bulletin, and I do a little bit of graphic design." And before the convention was over, he cornered me and asked if I'd be interested in serving on the board as the editor of the online Hosta Journal that's produced each year after the convention. And so I was on the board, and with the exception of 1 year off a few years ago to deal with some personal issues and changes in our family, I've served ever since, and I absolutely love it. It's a great board. We work well with each other. We get along. We have serious discussions at times, and I'm excited for the new board members that came on just this past June. I think we're going to have it's going to be great. I love working on the board.
Well, you've been very instrumental in trying to grow Hosta Society membership across the board. I know I'm using some of your content in the Minnesota Hosta Society newsletter, where I took over as new editor. Tell us about what you're doing to grow things for hosta societies.
Okay. Um, the newsletter exchange is great. I was asked to um, work with that a few years ago. So what that is, it's a group, each local hosta society normally puts out a newsletter. It's the editors, we all share our newsletters with each other on this exchange. And that way, if we see a great article or a great photo, we can use it in our local newsletter. We have full permission to use anything that's shared. And it helps us get content for the newsletter because no one wants to read a boring newsletter. It needs to be vibrant, fresh, and so we do that. It's a real challenge just to get content. Uh, More and more clubs are relying on social media, Facebook and Instagram and what have you, rather than actual newsletter. You need both, in my opinion, but keeping the members involved is critical. What we do and other clubs do is I had already mentioned the ice cream social and the Hosta auction. We also do a photo contest. We do a largest leaf contest at the end of the season. It doesn't have to be a pristine leaf. It just, can have bug holes in it or hail damage, but bring it in and there's winners. What we do, each member comes to a meeting, they get what we call a Hosta buck. And then winners of these contests get 10 Hosta bucks. So by the end of the year, if you come to all the meetings and win a contest, you can have 20 or $30 worth of pasta bucks that you can use at our plant sales in exchange for
Hmm.
real money. So that's kind of
Hmm.
a bribe. That's an incentive to come and be involved.
It's a
And if I know
really good
somebody,
idea.
yeah, if I notice somebody that's a regular attender and they don't show up, I'll drop them a quick email or a text. Hey, are you okay? We missed you last night at the meeting. Um, I don't nag people or bug them, but let them know that, hey, we missed you. You're important to us and make sure they're
Mhm.
okay.
So, did you listen to our episode with Barb Rockhorst where she was talking about they do like a poker game? Um,
Yes, I did
and
hear that.
yeah, I'm thinking between your ideas and her ideas, there's some really great ways to, increase membership and make it fun for people rather than this thing they have to do on a Thursday night or, something like
Yeah.
that.
I know the
That's
Potomac Hosta Society, I think they do a bingo with hostas stuff every now and then. We've gotten together, especially during COVID or right after COVID when things were kind of bumpy. We'd meet at the local restaurant and just have pie and coffee and just have a visit. We've gone out and had a breakfast in the wintertime on a
Mhm.
cold Saturday morning just to have something to do. And
Mhm.
so it's an opportunity to get out and do something.
Well, for the casual gardener who loves hostas but works full time, has a family, etc., but has toyed with the idea of joining the American Hosta Society or their local society, what would you say to them to push them to just do it?
Well, I've gone around and I've been visiting with a lot of the local clubs. I have a PowerPoint presentation on the display gardens I've been to, and I've been invited by a lot of local clubs to come and show that. I'm going to quite a few places this fall, but I always tell them at each meeting that if their president's not a member of the American Hospice Society, they need to purchase a membership for their president, the American Hospice Society, and get them involved, let them know what's going on. And I know a couple of clubs, they've actually paid the registration fee to the national or regional convention for their president to go to.
Mhm.
Uh, that's not a big investment for a lot of clubs, and you've got to be connected. It You have to have connections for your newsletters, your speakers, your activities, just to get some fresh ideas. Because when a society goes on year after year after year, it's hard sometimes to get fresh content and keep it interesting for the members. It's a cheap investment.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very smart. And I'm thinking back to Mary Albrecht, where she mentioned she was the only member of her group that came to the convention this last year. And I guess I was kind of surprised by that, but thinking about the cost and the things involved, I guess I do understand that. But I like this idea of at least making sure the president gets there. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Danny, it's time for our lighthearted segment, Finish the Rhyme. We'll read you a 4-line stanza, and you just have to fill in the hosta's name. Are you ready?
Let's go for it.
Okay. It's leaves of gold, a bright sunny sight, a splash of yellow, a garden delight, a warm color that pleases the soul. This golden hosta,
Squash casserole.
good job.
Mandy, you
All
just
right.
got that one, didn't you?
I just got that one at Seabright. Yes. All right, second one. A regal hosta with grand green grace, a white-edged leaf, a striking design in its place. Its colors stand bold for all to see. A patriotic name, it's
Liberty, one of my favorites.
very good.
Same
Yes, mine
here.
too. Mine too.
Well, Danny, as editor of the Hosta Journal, you're constantly curating articles, photos, and stories for the Hosta community. What's one feature or piece you have published that you are especially proud of?
Well, here we go again with trying to choose just one when there's so many. But I've
Mhm.
always been a fan, even before I became the editor, of Warren Pollock's What's in a Hosta Name series. I love learning how a hosta gets named. When you interviewed Olga here a few weeks ago and she explained how
Mhm.
Coast to Coast got its name, I
Hmm.
didn't know that. And that's an interesting little tidbit to share when you're selling the hostas at a sale. But probably one of my most favorite ones we've done was a couple of issues ago, and that's the one on seasonal color changes in hosta leaves. And that was a joint project by Dr. Ben Zonnefeld, Don Rawson, and Warren Pollock. Very informative, big article, lots of photos, and it was just a great looking article, and it was a great read. Very educational, scientific, but not over your head. But that's one I think's on one of my top ones.
Well, editing a national publication means that you're always balancing deep horticulture expertise with making it readable for every level of gardener. How do you decide what makes the cut for the journal and what gets left out?
Okay, well, let me pull some people under the bus with me on this one. There's articles sometimes that are submitted that just aren't quite journal worthy, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
That's tough because people really mean well when they submit an article for consideration. We have a couple out there right now that we've been rewriting, doing more research on, trying to get more photos, better quality photos, which again, Andy Marlowe mentioned quality of photos. And sometimes something comes in and it just simply can't be used. And that's hard to make people understand that we can't quite use that. Ideally, I rely heavily on our graphic artist, Janet Mills. She is absolutely fantastic and is the key person behind making the journal look the way it does now and making it the premier garden club publication. But when I need guidance on an article, on do we need this or that, I rely very heavily on visiting with Janet and Andy Marlowe, and again, Barry Ankeny. I know you guys keep hearing that name come up, but he is a person I rely very heavily on for feedback with his experience. So it's a joint effort. It's the team that produces a journal. We all need each other. It's not a one man show by any means. It's a team effort.
All right, Danny, let's get into our rapid fire segment, Hosta Hysteria, this or that. We'll give you two choices, and you just quickly choose between them and then tell us why. Are you ready?
Okay, let's go.
All right, here we go. Visiting the Bowling Green Botanical Garden or the Springfield, Missouri Botanical Garden?
Oh gosh, that's tough. They're both fantastic. Probably Bowling Green because I've been to Springfield like 5 or 6 times and Bowling Green just once. I can't wait to go back there.
That makes sense. All right, visiting Wichita's Botanica or seeing the iconic Keeper of the Plains statue?
Oh, Botanica. You have to drive by the Keeper of the Plains statue to see Botanica, so you actually get both. But
That's true. It's a twofer, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
Very cool. Next one, having a hosta with perfect habit and color or one with an exciting, unpredictable sport.
Oh, perfect habit and color. I don't like unpredictable. I plan things. I'm scheduled. I want to know what it's going to look like.
That makes sense. It's funny because everybody we interview has a totally different approach to
Uh-huh.
hostas and, oh, give me the sports, or, oh, no, I want the seedlings, or, oh, no, I want the old faithful. It's very interesting. Next one, clean up the garden foliage in the fall or wait and do it in the spring.
Oh, I clean it up in the fall. I don't want to look at that stuff all winter long, knowing I have that work waiting for me come spring. Just clean it up in the fall and be done with it.
That makes sense.
Huh.
All right. How about spending an evening at the Wichita River Fest or stopping by for a favorite sweet at the Nifty Nut House?
Nifty Nut House, hands down. Wichita River Fest has tens of thousands of people down there in just a few square blocks, and that's too many people for me.
And Nifty Nut House, folks, if you are coming to the convention in 29, make a point to stop by. It is an absolutely enormous, it's more than just a candy store. It's got nuts and toys and what else is in there? I mean, we've all been
I
there.
love all the antique gumball and peanut machines they have.
Yes.
It's a museum
It
of,
is. Yeah, I completely agree. I forgot those are all kind of on that wall along the back when you
Yeah.
go straight in. Yeah, we make a point every Christmas of going to the Nifty Nut House as a family. It's really quite
Mhm.
fun.
it is.
Um, all right, last one. A hosta that is a brilliant blue or one that's a vibrant gold.
I'll go with Brilliant Blue. Vibrant golds struggle here in Wichita with our heat,
Mhm.
our sun, and our wind. Blues hold up a little bit better.
Hmm,
Mhm. True.
that's interesting. Huh.
Well, Danny, this has been an absolutely fantastic and inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible passion and knowledge with us today.
Danny, before we go, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
Sure, sure. Join the American Hosta Society. Join your local Hosta Society. Get involved. Uh, plant hostas. Give them away as gifts to your friends, your neighbors. I've got lots of neighbors that have hostas that's come from my yard. Uh, my previous home I sold 4 years ago. I was there for 15 years. Yard was full of hostas. And now they're big time hosta fans. And it turns out her
Mm.
sister I was a hosta fan. And Bob Soberg was through town a couple years ago, and I took him out there to show him my old house. And they got to meet him, and so it was like meeting a rock star to them, to Bob Soberg in our yard. So, yeah, just get involved, support your president and your society, be there for them, work with the club. We need everybody.
Yeah, great advice. Where can our listeners find more information about the Wichita Hosta Society and your wonderful work?
We have a small presence on Facebook under Wichita Hosta Society group. We meet the fourth Tuesday of each month. We occasionally skip November to concentrate on our annual Christmas party, which is a big event in our club. That's
Mm.
big turnout for that. And our dues are reasonable. We charge $12 a year, just $1 a month. And we just, in the past year or two, made it an option for members to renew using PayPal or Venmo. People just don't like writing checks anymore, and nobody carries cash. And we email our newsletters because printing and postage is just simply it's gotten too expensive for our budget. And so that's how. Just find us on Facebook, come to a meeting, call Botanica. They know where we meet at, and we meet there occasionally. And we'd love to have you. You don't have to be a member to come to a meeting or a garden party.
That's great.
Awesome.
Well, and to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Hosta La Vista, the Friendship Plant podcast. You can follow us and send your Hosta questions to hostalavistapodcast@gmail.com. Find us and hit follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen, and make sure to like our Facebook group. Until next time, thanks for listening and
Hasta la vista, baby.
much, Danny.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a
Take
good day.
care.
That's awesome.